What if everything you've been through was never a mistake? What if every pain, every loss, and every obstacle had a hidden purpose? An invisible code placed in your life without you even knowing. The weight you carry, the wounds that have shaped you, the nights when you asked yourself why nothing seemed to make sense. None of it was a coincidence, and deep down, you always knew it. You always felt that something greater was happening, even when everyone around you tried to convince you otherwise. But why has no one ever told you the truth? The answer is simple: because from the moment you were born, they tried to make you forget who you really are. Everything was carefully designed to make you believe you were just another person, that your existence was random, that your pain had no meaning. But there is something inside you that could never be erased. Something that has always made the world around you react differently to your presence. And that is why, deep down, you always knew that something was wrong with this reality. What happens when a chosen one awakens? The world feels it. Something invisible shifts. It's as if reality itself reacts to your presence. People sense it, even if they don't understand why. Some are drawn to you without knowing why. Others pull away, consumed by an irrational fear. But one thing is certain: the system notices. And those who have always tried to silence you begin to panic, because they know that when a chosen one awakens, nothing can stop what comes next. But there is something they fear even more. Something they have spent their entire lives trying to hide. Because when a chosen one finally understands this, there is no turning back. And when you finally see it, you will realize that everything in your life has been leading you to this exact moment. But before you can understand what happens when a chosen one awakens, you must first grasp something even deeper. The reason why your life has always been different. Because when you discover this, everything you believed about yourself will change forever. Have you ever looked at the world around you and felt that something was deeply wrong, but you could never quite explain it? Since childhood, something inside you has told you that this place is not what it seems. While everyone else seemed to fit effortlessly into the world, you always carried a strange feeling, like you were out of place, living in a reality that wasn't truly yours. And no matter how hard you tried to adapt, that feeling never went away. There was always an emptiness, a restlessness, a silent calling that followed you everywhere. And then came the looks. Some people seemed to notice something different about you. Some were drawn to you, curious, as if they sensed something special. Others kept their distance, unsettled, as if they could feel something that scared them. Because even if you didn't know who you truly were, the world around you always did. But why does this happen? Because you carry something that cannot be seen, but it can be felt. An invisible mark. Something that makes certain people instinctively react to your presence. Some feel drawn to you. Others feel afraid. Some want to listen. Others want to silence you. From an early age, you noticed that some people admired you for no apparent reason, while others rejected you without explanation. You were treated differently, even when you didn't understand why. And that is precisely why the system made you believe that you were not special. From a young age, they taught you that being different was a problem. They forced you to conform, to fit in, to suppress your true essence just to be accepted. They told you your dreams were too big, that your sensitivity was a weakness, that your intuition was nothing but imagination, and you believed it, because it was that, or being rejected. School trained you to follow orders. Society pushed you into a mold. Religions told you what to believe, and those who were supposed to guide you never told you the truth. Since childhood, you were taught exactly what to think, how to act, and what to feel. But despite all their efforts, they were never able to erase who you truly are, because what is inside you cannot be erased. And now, you are about to understand exactly why. Because the truth was always there. And there comes a moment when the chosen ones can no longer ignore the call. Awakening does not happen all at once. It comes as small cracks in the illusion. At first, it feels like nothing more than a strange sensation, a growing discomfort, as if something is out of place. You begin to notice patterns, repeating situations, people who enter and exit your life at precisely the right moments. Déjà vu that feels like more than just coincidence. And then, the signs begin to appear. Dreams that feel like messages, encounters that completely change the course of your life. Words spoken by strangers that seem directed specifically at you. Synchronizations that become impossible to ignore. Certain songs, phrases, or symbols start repeating so intensely that calling it mere coincidence becomes impossible. You feel the shift, something inside you awakens, and little by little, reality starts to unravel before your eyes. And that is when everything changes. Because when a chosen one begins to see beyond the illusion, there is no turning back. But no one ever warned you that awakening is not beautiful. At first, it is devastating. You feel like you are losing control, as if your mind is collapsing. The world you once knew starts to dissolve before your eyes, and everything you thought was true suddenly stops making sense. The more you awaken, the stronger you become. But there is something no one ever told you, because awakening is not the end, it is only the beginning. There is a threshold, a point of no return, the moment when everything inside you collapses, and that is when you discover the truth they never wanted you to know. Your entire life, they expected you to endure everything. You were always the one who absorbed the pain, who carried burdens no one else wanted to bear. When the world became heavy, they placed even more weight on your shoulders. When everything crumbled, you were the one who had to remain standing. But no one ever stopped to ask how much you could take, because there is a limit, an invisible threshold where even the strongest begin to break. And when a chosen one reaches that limit, something happens. It is not just a crisis. It is not just a breakdown. It is a complete rupture from reality. At first, everything becomes silent, like the exact moment before a storm. You feel that something is about to change, but you don't know exactly what. Your mind begins to question everything. The things that once seemed normal now feel unbearable. The people around you act as if nothing is happening, but inside you the world is about to explode. And then, the inevitable happens. You collapse, but not quietly. It is as if everything inside you implodes at once. Your mind refuses to keep pretending. Your body feels the weight of what was hidden. Your spirit, which always tried to adapt, finally rebels. You try to scream, but no sound comes out. You try to hold on, but there's nothing left to grasp. You feel as if you are sinking into something invisible, something that has always been there, hidden within you. And then comes the despair, the doubt, the fear. What if I never find my way out of this? The thoughts grow more intense. The exhaustion turns into complete depletion. You feel a weight in your chest, as if something is about to burst. But nothing happens. You become someone watching yourself from the outside, trying to understand when everything began to fall apart. You try to hold on, try to act as if you are still the same person, but something inside you has already changed. What once motivated you no longer makes sense. The things you once tolerated now become unbearable. The feeling that you are losing control grows stronger every day. But the truth is, you are not losing control. You are breaking free from the illusion. And that is when the universe responds. Because the chosen one never breaks without a purpose. He must be destroyed in order to be rebuilt. And this rebuilding is not gentle. It is not kind. It is brutal. Because the great shift has arrived. And when a chosen one is reborn, nothing can stop them. But something unexpected happens. You begin to realize that the world around you is no longer the same. People change. Circumstances shift, and certain forces start to move against you. You feel it in the way people look at you, in the situations that appear out of nowhere, in the obstacles that seem to arise at the exact moment you begin to grow stronger. This is not a coincidence, because when a chosen one awakens, they become a threat to the system. And what happens when the system realizes that you can no longer be controlled? Now that you have reached this point, you have two choices. Pretend that none of this ever happened and return to the illusion, or accept that there is no going back. But know this, once you see the truth, you can never unsee it. And the moment you accept that, the world around you will react. When a chosen one awakens, something strange happens, and it's not just within them. It's as if the world itself notices. People around you start looking at you differently. Some distance themselves without explanation. Others feel an inexplicable pull to come closer. But why? What exactly is changing? Because the energy around you is no longer the same. Before you were living on autopilot. Now you see beyond the surface. Before, you followed the rules without question. Now, you sense they were designed to keep you trapped. Before, you thought you were alone. Now you realize that something greater is guiding your path. And the world around you begins to respond to this shift. At first, it all seems like coincidence. Small details that catch your attention, subtle glances, slight changes in the way people speak to you. But then something bigger happens. You walk into a room and sense that the energy shifts. You notice that people start acting differently around you. Some avoid you. Others feel an overwhelming urge to speak with you. It's as if, somehow, you are emitting an invisible signal. Some people will try to test you. They can sense that something within you has changed, but they don't understand what. They challenge you, question your choices, try to pull you back into who you once were. But the truth is, you can never go back. Others, people who have always been in your life, begin to drift away. Not because you did something wrong, but because they simply can no longer exist within the same frequency as you. They feel it, even if they can't explain it. But as some people disappear, new ones begin to appear. People who say exactly what you needed to hear, who show you paths you had never considered before, who seem to have come out of nowhere, yet somehow feel like they were always meant to be part of your journey. And then, you notice something unsettling. Reality itself starts to conspire either for you or against you. Synchronicities become so frequent that they are impossible to ignore. You think of something, and suddenly it manifests before your eyes. You feel the need to make a decision, and out of nowhere, the answer appears in a random conversation, in a book that suddenly crosses your path, in a phrase someone speaks as if it were meant directly for you. You start noticing strange patterns, repeated numbers in random places, different people saying the exact same words at different times. Coincidences so impossible, they can no longer be coincidences. You feel like you're being guided, but by whom? And then something even more unsettling happens. Time itself seems to behave differently. Events start aligning so perfectly that you feel as if a higher intelligence is orchestrating everything. But at the same time, the challenges intensify. Because the more you awaken, the more resistance the system creates against you. At first, it seems like a coincidence, small delays, people acting strangely. But then the obstacles grow larger. Plans that once seemed certain suddenly start falling apart without explanation. Simple situations become chaotic. You begin to feel as if you are being watched, tested, evaluated, like something invisible is reacting to your transformation. This is not a coincidence. From the moment you awaken, the system marks you. And don't think it's something physical or visible. It's energetic. There is something that monitors your frequency, something that senses when you break free from the chains. And when that happens, the resistance begins. Suddenly, things start going wrong for no apparent reason. People who were once friendly become distant, even hostile. Doors that seemed wide open abruptly close, and you begin to wonder, what is happening? But there is something no one ever told you. Your awakening was not an accident. It was planned. But planned by whom? What if you never truly had a choice? What if every decision you made up until now was already part of a much larger game? Because when a chosen one awakens, the entire world shifts. But the real question is, does it change for the better or for the worse? And more importantly, what is your role in all of this? And the question no one dares to ask. What really happens when all the chosen ones awaken at the same time? Because if there is one thing the system fears, it is exactly that. And what you are about to discover could change everything. The moment a chosen one awakens, something begins to happen. At first, it seems like mere coincidence, small signs, subtle repetitions. But then, the frequency intensifies, and you feel that something or someone is trying to communicate with you. But the question is, are you listening? You think about someone you haven't seen in years, and on the same day, they send you a message. You wonder about a topic, and out of nowhere, a video, a book, or a conversation delivers exactly the answer you needed. You glance at the clock and repeatedly see the same numbers. This is not a mistake, because after the awakening, nothing happens by chance. These are the first signs that the universe is speaking directly to you. Synchronicities. But they are not just coincidences. They are messages. Messages designed to test your awareness, your perception, and your ability to see beyond the surface. Because after awakening, the world is no longer the same. Colors seem more vivid. Words carry hidden meanings. The people around you begin to feel different. Some radiate an energy you never noticed before. Others drain you, leaving you exhausted just by being near them. This happens because your frequency has changed. And that is why some people start disappearing from your life. At first, it may seem strange. People you have known for years start drifting away without explanation. Old connections lose their strength. Relationships that once felt solid suddenly no longer make sense. But this separation is not a mistake. When your consciousness expands, your vibrations shift, and people who were once aligned with you can no longer connect with your new energy. Some leave your life peacefully. Others leave in conflict. Some simply disappear, as if they were never there. But they all leave because they must. But here's the detail no one tells you. At the same time that some people exit, others enter. New connections begin to appear unexpectedly. People who say exactly what you needed to hear. Hidden masters disguised as strangers. Souls that seem to have been part of your journey long before this life. And as all of this unfolds, something else begins to reveal itself. You realize that your perception of reality is changing. The way you see the world is no longer the same. You begin to notice patterns in everything. People's behavior becomes more predictable. You sense hidden intentions behind words. You feel the energy of a place before even stepping inside. Your intuition becomes so strong that at times it feels like you already know what's going to happen before it does. But this also attracts something unwanted, because the more you awaken, the more you realize that something doesn't want you to continue on this path. And then, the invisible attacks begin. At first, they seem like normal obstacles, small challenges, minor distractions. But then, they grow stronger. Exhaustion hits out of nowhere. Doubts creep in without reason. You feel strange looks in places that once felt safe. And some nights, you wake up with an unshakable feeling, as if you are being watched. As if something is testing your strength, waiting for the right moment to pull you back. This is not random, because there are forces that need you to stay asleep. And the more you awaken, the harder they try to drag you back. The signs from the universe keep arriving, but now they compete with distractions meant to confuse you. You notice certain people suddenly appearing in your life, trying to lead you down paths that don't make sense. You feel an invisible tension in the air, as if you're being tested constantly. But here's the truth. Awakening cannot be stopped, only delayed. If you resist, the forces trying to hold you back begin to lose their grip. And the further you go, the clearer everything becomes. But why? Who or what is behind these interferences? And what happens if you resist and keep awakening? Because there is something they don't want you to discover. Something that has always been hidden. Something that could change everything. And now, you are about to find out what it is. But the real question is, are you ready for this? Have you ever noticed how society reacts when someone starts to see beyond the surface? The moment a chosen one awakens, they become a threat. Not because they are dangerous, but because they can no longer be controlled. Society was shaped to obey. From birth, we were trained to follow rules, accept authority, and repeat patterns without questioning them. But have you ever wondered why some people never feel like they belong to this system? Why are there always those who seem to see something that others cannot? Because some were meant to wake up. But the system fears that. Because a chosen one who has awakened no longer follows the imposed narrative. They do not bow to fear. They are not manipulated by false promises. And they are not easily controlled. And for a system that survives on control, someone who thinks for themselves is the greatest threat imaginable. But if this system exists, who created it? And why was it designed to keep people asleep? The answer runs deeper than you think. Reality has been manipulated. The history they told you was never complete. The way society functions is not an accident. The distractions are planned. The crises are manufactured. Fear is used as a weapon to keep people trapped, to prevent them from asking the one question that could change everything. Why am I living like this? The truth is, you weren't meant to, but few ever realize it, because the illusion was well constructed, and those who begin to awaken are tested. And here's the truth no one ever told you. Your awakening was never a mistake. From the moment you began to see beyond the illusion, you entered a process that cannot be undone. But it comes at a price. Because chosen ones are tested before they step into their purpose. And these tests are not easy. Have you ever wondered why your life always seemed harder than others? Why the pain you endured felt more intense? Why it always seemed like you were fighting against something invisible? The answer is right here. The chosen must be prepared. If you are awakening, it means you have been forged in the fire of resistance. Nothing that happened to you was random. The pain you felt, the betrayals you suffered, the losses that seemed unbearable, the isolation that felt unfair. Each of those moments was a test, because before a chosen one can lead, they must survive. Before they can reveal the truth, they must be strong enough to carry it. And that is why life always tried to break you, because those who awaken unprepared do not survive the truth, but you did. And now you stand before the greatest revelation of all. Now that you know this, the final question is inevitable. What will you do with this knowledge? Because knowing is only the first step. The real question is, what comes next? There comes a moment when everything changes. The exact instant when a chosen one stops being a victim and becomes an agent of transformation. Your entire life, everything around you tried to convince you that you had no control. They told you your destiny was already written, that life's hardships were just random misfortunes, and that you should accept everything as it is, without questioning. But what if that was the greatest lie ever told to you? What if, all along, you had the power, but never realized it? This is the moment when everything falls into place. Those who awaken go through a turning point, the moment when the illusion dissolves completely. For years, you believed you were trapped. You felt the weight of society's invisible chains, the limiting beliefs, the fears planted in you since childhood. But now, something inside you has changed. And in that moment, you realize something you never imagined before. The chains were never real. The instant a chosen one breaks free, everything shifts. The air feels lighter. The voices that once restrained them now seem distant. They don't just understand the truth, they embody it. And in that moment, they become what the system fears most. Someone who cannot be stopped. The pain, the suffering, the hardships, all of it was part of a process. An invisible training meant to prepare those destined to awaken. Because a chosen one is never given power without first being tested. You have been tested. And now that you have endured the trials, something happens. The world begins to respond differently. People around you start acting strangely. Some distance themselves without explanation. Others are drawn to you as if sensing a new energy. Time seems to slow down in some moments and speed up in others. Reality itself begins to feel malleable. And for the first time, you understand. You have control over your own existence. The chains were never physical. They were always in your beliefs, in your programming, in the lies you were told your entire life. But now they dissolve. And for the first time, you feel something you never have before. Absolute power over your own existence. But what happens when a chosen one finally steps into their true power? The answer is simple. The world will never be the same again. The way you see things changes drastically. Events around you start aligning like pieces of a puzzle that had always been there, yet you had never noticed before. Time itself begins to respond differently. What once seemed impossible now unfolds effortlessly. The answers you've been searching for appear in unexpected ways. And this happens because, for the first time, you are in harmony with your true purpose. Now, everything around you takes on a new meaning. You walk the same streets, but everything feels different. The people who once ignored you now seem to take notice. Words carry hidden meanings. The system tries to pull you back, but you have already crossed the threshold. There is no turning back. But there is something no one ever told you. This moment was foretold long ago. Ancient civilizations knew this day would come. Texts were burned, histories were distorted. The world was led to believe this would never happen, but it did. And now, the forgotten prophecy unfolds before your eyes. And the only question that remains is, are you ready for what comes next? A chosen one who has awakened does not go unnoticed by the world. The energy around you shifts. People sense it, even if they don't understand it. Some are drawn to you, others distance themselves. But one thing is certain, the system notices. Have you realized how, after your awakening, strange things started happening? As if something was testing you, pushing you to see how much you can endure? This is not a coincidence. Because when a chosen one awakens, the balance changes. The energy patterns begin to shift. People who once overlooked your presence now seem to notice something different. Some feel inspired, others feel unsettled. But no one can treat you the same way as before. Your frequency has changed. You no longer vibrate in the illusion. You now resonate with truth. And when that happens, everything around you begins to reorganize. But what happens when it's not just one? What happens when thousands awaken at the same time? If before, the system only needed to control small groups, now it faces something impossible to contain. Like a wave rising, like a fire spreading. And those who have always held power know they cannot stop the inevitable. You are not alone. Every day, more and more people are feeling the same thing. They are questioning, awakening, seeing beyond the illusion. They are noticing the signs, sensing the energy shift, breaking free from old patterns that once seemed normal. And when this happens on a massive scale, what once seemed unshakable begins to collapse. Governments, systems of control, power structures built on fear. All of it starts to weaken. But here's the detail no one has noticed. This was always meant to happen. Since ancient times, hidden texts have spoken of a moment when humanity would undergo a great transformation of the original consciousness. What if that moment is now? What if your awakening is not just about you, but about something much greater? What if the calling you felt was not random, but a sign that you were always meant to be part of this, long before you were even born? Now that you have awakened, there is no turning back. But there is something even greater than this, something that connects everything. And in the next video, you will discover a truth so profound that, after hearing it, you will never see the world the same way again.